Hi, my name is Serena Kashmir and welcome back to What I Learned. So every Monday I make a new video about what I learned the previous week and I teach it to you guys. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, like this video, share it with some friends, and hit the bell so you get all the notifications. So this is kind of one of those things where if you're not addicted to productivity, you're like, okay, good for you, that's not a problem. But if you are on the other side of it and you know that this applies to you, you know how awful it can really be. My calendar is completely filled. So right now I'm in school, I'm in college, my last few weeks, and so I have my normal class schedule. But then I will also have things that I want to do that day, some things that are actually due that day, but then things that are just would be nice, but the way that my brain works is like, you should have done this 2 weeks ago, so do it today. So from the moment I wake up, I'm stressed because I realize that my entire day is full, I'm already behind, and I have no time for friends, for family, for anything extra. If something gets thrown my way that I'm not expecting, it just totally throws me for a loop because I'm already thinking, I'm so overwhelmed, I have too much to do, I can't handle one more thing. Now that you can see how much of a crazy person I am, this is what I've done to help curb that. So, I am learning to live with open space in my schedule and to not let that give me anxiety. So I have my normal class schedule, and then I don't fill in the breaks unless I have to, unless it's like, oh, you must study or memorize this for the next class. Then I might put it in there. Then when I add things to my extra to-dos, it is only if it is due that day. If it's not due that day, I put it on a separate list. I know I still sound crazy, but this is improvement for me. I put it on a list that I actually will write down, and I will put it down so that I feel like, yes, I acknowledged that I would like to do that. However, I don't put expectation on myself to do it at all or to do it by a certain day. What I've started doing is when I'm bored, I'm like, oh, this is what normal people feel. Boredom. And then they think, what would I like to do next? This is, not that crazy, but in my world it is. And oftentimes, because you and I are so primed for productivity, that when you're bored, you can just look around and find something to do. And what I've noticed is that when I just throw all these tasks at myself, I get so overwhelmed that I end up doing not that many of them, and then I feel guilty and then snowball into negative emotions. But if I allow myself to sit and be bored for a second, and then I think of something to do and then I do it, and then I sit and I get bored, and then I think of something to do and then I do it, I actually am more joyous, more fulfilled, I have a sense of freedom, but I'm actually more productive than when I obsess over being productive. When I actually look back on my day, I'm like, I cleaned the house. I hate cleaning, by the way. So I cleaned the house, I did my homework, I memorized my scenes, I chatted with friends. I mean, I can go through the list and I'm like, that was a productive day. So it's kind of counterintuitive, but it works. Notice when you're in a frenzy. So I often will be like this in my head. And when those moments happen, that's when I start watching TV. That's when I turn to social media. That's where I'm like, where's the chips and ice cream? If you ever get to that point, you need to just tell yourself like, red alert, something is going on. I need to figure this out. And everyone's gonna deal with it differently. I mean, if I just say, oh my God, I'm freaking out, and I try to sit with it, it is so painful. It is the worst. It's just like, I can't deal with it. But recognizing that it's happening, and then just making yourself slow down a bit. So it'll be like, okay, I really want chips and ice cream, but then instead of running to get them, you walk to get them. I mean, those types of little steps will help, and they won't feel like you're trying to force yourself to change or be something different. Some other things I'm sure you've heard of a million times: yoga, stretching, meditation. So if I am feeling like I need to be productive, I often don't feel like, okay, let me slow down and do yoga. I might even have yoga on my to-do list, but I'll make that last because that requires me to no longer be on an adrenaline rush. And so I'll be like, let me finish everything I'm supposed to do today, and then I can deserve to relax, and then I'll do yoga. No. Because what ends up happening is I don't finish my to-do list, and then I never get to the yoga, and the yoga is this like trophy at the end instead of yoga being the actual foundation of my life. Like, if I prioritize doing yoga and not just doing it to check it off, but sitting down, being bored, being like, I've got some tightness in my chest. Why don't I YouTube a yoga video on muscle relaxation or upper body relaxation? Oh, it's only 10 minutes, okay, great. And then you really be present and focus on relaxing your chest for those 10 minutes. And then afterwards you're like, okay, I felt good. What else should I do? Completely different mindset. Obviously, we're not in control, but I don't think we think about that or remember it most of the time. Because especially if you're addicted to productivity, you think, if I just do this, then I will get this. But that's not true. I mean, there are actors out there who are not training at all, and they're on Broadway. And then there's people that train every single day, and they can't book a job. So there's not a if this then that scenario. So if you're not in control, what kind of life do you want to have? If nothing is guaranteed, why would you want to stress yourself out? Why would you want to live that kind of life? But on the flip side, we are responsible. So no matter what happens in our life, we have to take responsibility and deal with it head on. You can actually trust that over time, you'll figure this out. It takes all the pressure off of trying to figure it out now. If you think, okay, God, this is so annoying, all I want to do is just rest, but I can't because I'm so stressed out about getting everything done, you'll be like, okay, I am going to try this. And then the next day you're like, yeah, that didn't work, I can't stick to that. And you're like, okay, I'm going to try this. Yeah, that didn't work either. Eventually you're gonna narrow down what works exactly for you, and you just have to trust that you are smart enough, that you are lovable, that you can do this. When I get into a situation where I'm uncomfortable, but I really want something, I'll usually ask myself, if the worst thing that happened was that I was uncomfortable, it's worth it. For example, if I'm going into an audition and it's for a huge role and it would change my life and I love the character, oh my God, what if I suck? What if I forget my lines? What if they don't like me? Okay, what's the worst thing that could happen? That's uncomfortable. That's really uncomfortable. But if I don't go, I'll never know if I could have played that part. So it's worth it. So if you are stressed out and you're like, I'm just gonna try to get rid of my schedule and sit here, what's the worst that could happen? You're uncomfortable. Time is a luxury, enjoy it. When I stop trying to be productive all the time and I sit here, I'm like, oh, this reminds me when I was a little kid and time seemed to go on forever. When I'm in productivity mode, there's no time for anything. I'm getting older by the second. I haven't accomplished anything. I'm gonna die soon. But when I sit and I'm like, doo-doo-doo, you know? I'm like, there's a lot of time in this day. I mean, wow. I might have an hour and a half break and I'm sitting here like, this hour and a half is very long. So time itself, you'll have a different relationship to. And I mean, I'm sure you've seen people lose their lives, and especially now during COVID, we all don't know when our last day is. And we all know that, and we all want to enjoy our lives, and we all want to be more present, but sometimes we don't know how to get there. And I can tell you that by making this shift, you'll get much closer to living in the present. Before we finish, I just want to give you a few more reminders. So, trust that you are who you are. You are someone who likes to get things done, who likes that satisfaction when they check the box. If you eliminate all of these to-dos and the obsessive mentality, you will sit and you will ask yourself, what do I want to do next? And you will end up doing something that makes you productive because that's already who you are. You are primed to be productive. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to worry about it. You just can trust that you naturally are a productive person. Relationships. What makes us happiest in this world is relationships. And when I realized that, I was just overwhelmed with the simplicity, and I was relieved too. But what I've realized is that I can't develop my relationships and I can't live in the present when my mind is just going crazy with all of these thoughts and all of these shoulds and shouldn't haves and guilt. Really connect to what makes living on this planet important. And if you just live in the moment and decide from time to time what you want to do, you'll have those relationships. So work on your productivity addiction because you will have freedom, you will have joy. It is worth it. Heal, love yourself. I'll see you next week.